Paul Kelly, a professor, the chief medical officer of this nation, standing up in front of the cameras in, I think it was September 2021, saying that all the studies on ivermectin show it's not effective. At that stage, there were 30-something studies into ivermectin that showed it was an effective treatment.
Well, even worse, Craig, he said it was ineffective and dangerous.
That's right. Look, you know, it's...
And he was standing alongside the Federal Minister for Health,
right.
Greg Hunt, at the time. I mean, this is sort of, you know, Soviet Union level of propaganda, isn't it?
So what the inquiry should be looking at, firstly, why we had all this misinformation coming from government, and secondly, why weren't these subjects open to free and open debate? What was the involvement of these big tech companies that were censoring people like myself, people like Dr. Peter McCullough, Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Paul Marrick? You can count dozens and dozens of highly qualified medical experts from around the world that were actually working at the coalface during the COVID period, that were giving their experiences and their feedback of how they were treating patients, what was working, what was not working. These people were censored. And they were in there telling the truth. That's one thing the COVID inquiry should be looking at, how this censorship came about and how it can ensure this censorship never happens again. But you know,
one aspect of that, Craig, is the media. I mean, we're just looking at some Channel 9 footage here. They weren't Robinson Crusoe there, but it seemed like the entire media at one point had fallen for this propaganda and were part of it. Now, you can't help thinking that, you know, that there were government advertising contracts involved, and somehow the government was coercing these big media companies to toe the line, don't you think?
Well, that should be a subject of the inquiry.
Yeah.
Who was pressuring the media organisations to fall into line with groupthink, even at the ABC? The conduct of the ABC during COVID, to me, the mistakes that they made and the misinformation they put to wear is the greatest case that the ABC should be sold off or given away or closed down than there ever was. This was one time that you might need a government-funded broadcaster that say we're not influenced, you know, by the commercial pressures of the large pharmaceutical companies, but the ABC failed us during COVID. Part of this inquiry should be the ABC's failure during this period, but again, that's not something that's not even on the table.
And neither is, you know, why Sweden got it right, why Israel got it wrong. You know, there's not even any sort of attempt to widen the purview of the inquiry into lessons that we could have learnt from overseas, because we were one of the worst countries for the lockdowns.
Well, that's right. The evidence is now coming in clear. We're seeing study after study that these lockdowns created more harm, more long-term harm than any short-term benefit that they had. They were pushed by a lot of Labor state governments, cheered on by the Labor federal opposition at the time that were calling for harsher measures. So, of course, this is another thing that's just not being looked at during this inquiry, which is why it is a complete Mickey Mouse of inquiry. It's a complete waste of time. They may as well not have it.
Yeah.
They might as well just say, look, we'll write you the report, what you want to hear, Albo, and we'll give it to you in 12 months' time. And all those important issues that the Australian public deserves an answer on are going to be swept under the carpet. But look, there's a lot of people that are out there that are still talking about these things. And as you said, they're not going to be able to hide the truth forever.